Have you ever checked the Steam market and noticed a random skin you have never heard of suddenly costs 10 times what it did last week? A Galil Sage Spray, factory new, going from 30 cents to over $6, a Glock off World jumping 400% in a month. That is not organic demand, that is not players suddenly falling in love with the consumer-grade Galil skin from the Lake collection. That is a coordinated pump, and today we are going to break down exactly how it works, who is behind it, and what the data actually tells us. A pump group in the CS2 skin market works almost exactly like a pump and dump scheme in traditional finance. A coordinated group of players pools their money, targets a specific skin, buys up as much supply as possible to drive the price up, and then sells at the peak to unsuspecting buyers who think the price is going to keep climbing. The groups primarily operate out of China, coordinating through WeChat and QQ group chats. Chinese influencers form these groups with their followers, many of them college students who are not even CS2 players, just people looking to make quick money. Here is how the cycle works step by step. Step 1. Target selection. The group identifies a skin with specific characteristics. It needs to have limited supply, meaning no active case drops. It needs to be relatively cheap, so the group can afford to buy up a significant portion of the supply, and it needs to be factory new specifically, because FN versions of many skins have extremely low quantities on the market. Step 2. Accumulation. The group quietly buys up listings across multiple platforms. Buff 163, the Steam Market, CS Float, Skinport. They do not buy everything at once. They buy gradually to avoid raising red flags too early. Step 3, the squeeze. Once they control a significant portion of the available supply, the remaining listings thin out. Simple economics takes over. Less supply at the same demand means prices go up, but the group goes further. They list their own skins at increasingly higher prices, creating the illusion of a price trend. Step 4. The hype. As the price climbs, it shows up on tracking sites and price alert tools. Other players notice. Reddit posts appear. Discord servers light up. People start buying and thinking they have found the next big investment. Step 5. The exit. The pump group sells their inventory into this new demand, slowly at first, then more aggressively. Once they have cashed out, the artificial demand disappears and the price crashes back down. Anyone who bought at the top is left holding an overpriced skin that is rapidly losing value. Let me show you exactly what this looks like with real skins that are being pumped right now. And I am not just going to show you price charts. I pulled the actual market data so you can see the numbers for yourselves. First up, the Galil Air Sage Spray, factory new. This is a consumer grade skin from the Lake collection. For years, this skin sat at around 10 to 30 cents. Right now, it is listed at just under $6, but the real tell is in the volume. Over the last 15 days alone, 469 of these have been sold. That is 31 per day for a consumer-grade Galil skin. That volume is not organic. Normal daily volume for a skin like this would be in single digits. Second, the P250 Boreal Forest, factory new, same Lake collection, same pattern, currently at just under $4, up from around 10 cents. 389 sold in the last 15 days, 26 per day. When two skins from the same collection spike at the same time with matching volume surges, that is not coincidence. That is coordination. Third, the 5.7 Forest Knight, factory new from the Train collection. And this one is a wild ride. It went from $1.67 in early March to over $4.20 now, nearly tripling in just 2 weeks. It briefly dipped after its initial spike but is climbing right back up. This could be a second wave, which makes it even riskier. If you are looking at this and thinking about buying in, keep in mind that this kind of volatility is exactly what pump groups create. It can reverse just as fast. Fourth, the Glock 18 Sacrifice, factory new from the CS20 case, currently at around $22, up from around $5, 23 sales per day. And this one is interesting because the CS20 case is the same case that gave us the MP9 Hydra. The MP9 Hydra factory new was one of the most well-documented Chinese pump targets. It sat at around $5 to $10 for years, from 2019 all the way through 2025. Then, in late 2025, it exploded. On January 12, 2026, it peaked at over €550, roughly $580, with 23 copies sold at that price in a single day. And then it crashed hard. Right now, it is sitting at around $110. That is an 80% drop from the peak. And look at the volume, about 5 sales per day on average, but dropping to just 1 per day recently. 77 sold in the last 15 days. That is what happens after a pump. The price stays inflated, but nobody is actually buying anymore. It is a ghost town. And fifth, the Glock 18 Off-World factory new from the Spectrum 2 case, up from around $4 to nearly $25. But look at the volume, 690 sold in just 15 days, 46 per day. This is the highest volume of any skin on this list. When a mid-tier Glock skin is moving 46 units a day, someone is actively working this market. Now when you put all 6 items side by side, the pattern becomes undeniable. Every single one of these is a low-tier skin from a discontinued collection or an older case. Every single one has abnormal volume for its rarity, and the ones with the highest daily volume are the ones still being actively pumped, while the ones with collapsing volume like the MP9 Hydra show what happens when the pump group exits. Now here is where it gets really interesting. Let me show you where these skins are actually listed for sale right now. Take the Glock 18 off-world, factory new. There are listings across about a dozen platforms, and the split between Eastern and Western markets tells you everything. Eastern markets, meaning Buff, 163, UPIN, SkinSwap CN, and Halo skins hold about 40% of all listings. Western markets, including Steam, CS Float, Skinport, D-Market, White Market, and others, hold the remaining 60%. That sounds somewhat balanced, right? But here is where it gets interesting. Within that Western 60%, Steam, the platform most players use to check prices, has just 29 listings. That is under 3% of the total supply. Meanwhile, on the Eastern side, UPIN alone has 231. And one thing most people do not realize, UU Skins, which looks like a separate Western platform, is actually a storefront for UPIN. They share the same inventory. So if you see 223 listings on UU Skins and 231 on UPIN, those are the same skins, not separate supply. When you only need to buy up 29 listings to control the Steam price of a skin, the cost of manipulation is almost nothing. Same story with the Galil Sage Spray. Eastern markets hold about 41%, Western markets about 59%. But again, Steam only has 65 listings out of nearly 700 total. That is less than 10% of all supply sitting on the platform that sets the price for most Western players. UPIN has 127, SkinSwap CN has 101, Buff 163 has 97. This is why the pump works. The groups do not need to buy up every copy in existence. They do not even need to touch the Eastern markets, they just need to clear out the Steam listings, which is the platform most Western players use to check prices. Once Steam shows a massively inflated price, it becomes the reference point. Tracking sites pick it up, and suddenly everyone thinks the skin is worth 5, 10, 20 times what it was a week ago. Now, why is this predominantly a Chinese phenomenon? First, China has the largest CS2 trading community in the world. Buff 163 processed more transaction volume than all Western platforms combined before it was restricted to Chinese users only in mid-2024. Second, the cultural environment around skin trading in China is different. It is treated more like stock trading. Influencers openly promote pump groups on social media as investment opportunities. College students join these groups to try to make quick money, similar to how meme stock groups operate in Western markets. Third, the isolation of the Chinese market after Buff 163 restricted international access has created a pricing disconnect. Chinese traders can pump prices on their domestic platforms and then use the inflated valuations to sell on international platforms where buyers do not have visibility into the coordination happening on the Chinese side. And fourth, the CS2 skin market is relatively small. According to PriceEmpire, the total market cap sits at around $5.7 billion. That sounds like a lot, but for individual skins with low supply, it does not take much capital to move the price significantly. A group with $50,000 can corner the entire FN supply of many consumer and industrial grade skins. And as we just saw on Steam specifically, you might only need a few $100s. So how do you spot one of these? Here are the red flags I look for. Red flag number 1, sudden price spikes on low-tier skins. If a consumer-grade or industrial-grade skin suddenly jumps hundreds of % with no valve update, no collection change, and no gameplay reason, it is almost certainly being pumped. Red flag number 2, multiple skins from the same collection spiking together. The late collection pump is a perfect example. When the Galil Sage Spray and the P250 Boreal Forest both spike at the same time from the same obscure collection, that is coordination, not organic demand. Red flag number 3, Steam price diverging from third-party prices. Check CS Float, Skinport, and if you have access, Buff 163. If the Steam market price is dramatically higher than these platforms, someone is manipulating the Steam listings, and now you know why. Steam often has the fewest listings of any platform, making it the easiest to manipulate. Red flag number 4, abnormally high volume for the skin tier. A consumer-grade skin averaging 30 sales per day is a massive red flag. Check the historical volume. If a skin that used to sell 2 or 3 times a day is suddenly doing 30 or 50, something is driving that artificially. Red flag number 5, factory new specifically being targeted. Pump groups almost always target factory new because the supply is naturally the lowest. Many older skins have very few FN copies in circulation, making them easy to corner. Red flag number 6, the skin has no aesthetic appeal or gameplay relevance. Be honest with yourself. Is anyone genuinely excited about a Galil Sage Spray? If the skin is not popular as a play skin and has no community cult following, the price spike is not driven by real demand. Red flag number 7. No desirable trade-up outcome. Some skins hold value because they can be traded up to a higher tier skin that is actually worth something. But collections like the Lake collection have no desirable trade-up target. There is no rare or sought-after skin waiting at the top of that collection. So when a consumer-grade skin from a collection with no trade-up demand starts spiking, there is literally no fundamental reason for the price increase. It is pure manipulation. Here is my takeaway from all of this. Personally, if I see a skin spiking and I do not understand why, the first thing I do is check the data. I look at the daily volume and ask myself if it makes sense for that tier of skin. I check if other skins from the same collection are also spiking. And I do not just look at Steam. I check CS float, I check Skinport, and I look at where the supply actually sits. If Steam has 30 listings and Chinese platforms have 500, that tells me everything I need to know. If I owned skins that were being pumped, I would probably sell into the hype. If I had bought a Galil sage spray for 30 cents and it was sitting at $5, personally, I would take that. The 5.7 Forest Knight went from $1.67 to over $4 in 2 weeks, and that kind of move on a train collection skin does not happen organically. Whether it keeps climbing or crashes tomorrow, the volatility itself is the warning sign. None of this is financial advice, obviously, everyone makes their own decisions. But I think the more you understand how these pumps actually work, the better equipped you are to read the market for what it really is. The CS2 market is incredible. It is one of the few places where digital items hold and grow real value. But like any market, it has bad actors. Understanding how pump groups operate just makes you a more informed player. That is it for today. If you found this useful, hit subscribe and drop a comment letting me know which skins you think are currently being pumped. I read every comment and I will try to cover your suggestions in future videos. Stay smart, stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.